Welcome to Not Starving Artists, the podcast. I'm Brooke, your host, money coach, and financial cheerleader, here to teach you the money management and mindset strategies of high-earning creatives. I graduated from college broke with a BFA in theater, having constant panic attacks about paying rent. And now I am a working actor, artist, and business owner in New York City, making a full-time income as a self-employed creative and on track to be a multimillionaire in retirement, while still enjoying plenty of vacations and happy hour margaritas. So get ready to learn how you, as a self-employed hottie with fluctuating income, can have a relationship with money that feels safe, spacious, and sexy. The best part? No budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks required. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm here to let you know that the podcast is going to be taking summer vacation this year. So we'll be pausing the podcast for now. It will come back in the fall for season 2. I'm not sure exactly what week in the fall it will come back. I want to ride out the summer, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why I'm taking a breather and how you can connect with me. And I'm going to give you a list of some things to listen to in the meantime before it comes back. But I will let you know when I have a date in mind and when it will be released again. Season 2 might look exactly the same as season 1 of 165 episodes so far did. It might look completely different. It might have a different cadence. It might have a different format. I'm not entirely sure. We're going to let the summer decide. You also may have noticed that the past 2 weeks, an episode has not released on Friday either. That was completely unintentional. That was me running out of time before I went on vacation to batch enough episodes to carry us through this week. But it was during those 2 weeks when I was out on vacation on the West Coast. The first week, I was with my family on a boat in the middle of the ocean. It was incredible. And the second week, I was with my dear friend Harriet, and then I saw my sister's show at UCB. So just a lovely 2 weeks with no deadlines. And I realized how important that is for us to do, especially if we're self-employed and especially if we have the ability to do that. I can't remember if I've talked about this on the podcast or if it was on my Instagram stories, but as artists and as business owners, those of us who are completely in charge of our income in our business and careers, we really forget to give ourselves like bank holidays, vacations, time off, because so many of us are in the business of trying to procure work, whether it's artistic work or clients or whatever it is. It feels like we are so excited when we do get to work that why on earth would we intentionally choose to not work for certain periods of time, especially if it's creative and especially if it's what we love. Like, we forget to add that into our lives, but we need to, because even the process of auditioning or marketing or selling or creating our packages or going in networking, all of that is still work. I know you know this, but it behooves us to say it out loud and remind ourselves of this constantly. So with that being said, we're 4 years into the podcast, 165 episodes deep. It's time for a summer vacation. I want to share some more thoughts here in case you are having the same thoughts, in case they will support you as you venture into summer 2026. And then I'm going to leave you with some ways to connect, some things to listen to, some things to think about until we meet again here on the podcast in the fall. So the first thing that I want to say is that the universe loves to fill a void. This is something I constantly forget because I like to fill my calendar. I love to be doing things. I love to be busy. I love a to-do list. But I forget that I need to give myself space of boredom and to clear things that aren't absolutely lighting me up and making me excited. And I want to differentiate here because I hesitate to say like only things that bring me joy, because sometimes with work and business and life, like not everything is going to fill you with joy. But if it's not filling you with some kind of excitement and hope and momentum, that's what I mean. That's what I'm clearing space of. And so I want to create space here to figure out what wants to fill that. Is it another version of the podcast? Does my brain just need buffering time, like turn it off and back on again? Does something else need to fill it? I'm not quite sure. But I know that I won't be able to find those answers with continued output, right? The universe loves to fill a void. This is also for us creatives and artists. I find that it's so funny. Every fucking time that I book a vacation, and I intentionally clear my calendar in order to go on said vacation, I will get a call back, I will get a booking, like I will then have something come in artistically every fucking time. So it's also good to remember that like when we clear space, it does get refilled, even when that can feel a bit scary. There's also something about clearing things away and clearing everything off the table, starting with a blank slate to decide what you want to add back in. I teach a version of this as a spending exercise. So for some of my clients, I've run them through this where they're wanting to cut expenses, not from the energy of like, let's see how little I can spend, but it just feels like there's all these things that I have to have and I'm kind of feeling overwhelmed and I don't really know what I need, what I don't need. There's like lack of clarity around it. And so what I've worked with them on is this exercise of take it away for a certain amount of time and then decide after that certain amount of time if it feels like something you want to add back in. So for one of my clients, it was like a massage membership. For one of them, it was a gym membership. And in that space of clearing it out, they were able to have clarity of like, oh, I actually don't need that. Like I really did not feel a difference. But then another one of the clients was like, yeah, I can't live without that. Those 3 months were grueling. Like this is definitely something that will impact my quality of life. But both of these clients, even though they ended up with two different like one ended with a yes and one ended with a no, the process of clearing it out to understand whether it was a yes or a no, they weren't able to see that clearly while it was still in their life. So I just want to say, if you're feeling that way with some of your expenses or a membership or something that you're putting money towards, that you're like, this doesn't feel as good anymore, or I'm not quite sure, that's a really great exercise because our brains also don't like things that are indefinite. It feels quite scary, or at least if you're anything like me and my brain. If I say I'm going to do this forever, this is how things are going to be, immediately start to seize up and panic. So give yourself like 1 month or 3 months or for the rest of this year, and it takes away the like panic and infiniteness of that decision. And it's like, and then I can add it back in or make a different decision later. This is trigger dates, what we talked about in the last episode that was released. This is in the energy of trigger dates, of you're giving yourself a manageable amount of time to be able to make a decision in. So part of what this summer vacation is doing for me in this energy is I'm clearing things away, and you'll probably see me on Instagram less as well. I'm clearing a lot of this stuff that I feel like are things I should be doing, or the cadence that I've had with these things for years. And I want to kind of clean house to figure out how and what I want to put back on the table to continue to have joy and excitement and momentum in all of the things that I do. Another thing I've been sitting with over the past probably 6 months is the idea of revisiting content, revisiting things that I'm consuming, and sitting with things longer rather than a larger quantity of consumption. I know like consumption is a big thing in the ether right now, and I have been sitting a lot with it of consuming less, like if we're talking consumerism, but I'm mainly talking like our brain space. I went to the opera a couple of months ago with someone I met who gave me a comp ticket to Madame Butterfly. And I had seen Madame Butterfly years ago in Sarasota, and I'd never been to the Met here in the city. And so I was able to go see it a second time, and we were talking about opera as an art form. This was also right after the Timothée Chalamet interview where he said the stuff about opera was going around. So we were having this really great conversation about how, like, in the olden days, we used to, like, see something and then have to sit with it, and then we would see it again, and then we'd see it again, and we'd have different experiences with the piece of art each time we saw it, and we'd see differences, and we were sitting with this one piece and kind of, like, milking it of its joy, of its curiosities, of the differences, of the things we didn't like about it. And of course we were specifically talking about it in the opera sense, but then we were talking about how much content is being created like in the TV and film world, right? With streaming services. And even though it's like there's less jobs than ever for artists, it also feels like there's more content than ever to be consuming. And so the art of sitting with something and not having something that you can directly watch after it. It feels like a lost art form. Like I've watched a lot of movies and TV shows recently, but not a lot of them are like screaming back to my brain of like, oh my God, the visceral reaction I had to that, or this movie that I watched and then I didn't watch another movie for 2 whole more weeks. Right? Before we had streaming, like we had to watch them at the movie theater, or like we had our DVD collection, so we were rewatching these movies that we loved. Like there's something about going back to old pieces of art, old pieces of content, and re-soaking them in and getting different things out of them. Rereading books even. I think I'm gonna go back and reread a book series from my childhood. I did this recently last year. I reread Series of Unfortunate Events. Lemony Snicket, I think, is one of the most brilliant writers of our time. If you haven't read through Series of Unfortunate Events as an adult, highly recommend it, especially if you read it as a kid. He also has a series called All the Wrong Questions, which is really brilliant. But why I'm saying all of this is because when I think about like in business and in money and in self-development and in career, like these sorts of things, I know that I am constantly in like a, what's the new thing I can learn? Let me consume more podcasts, more books, more people sharing their thoughts, and then let me disseminate all of this different information. And I'm constantly getting new stuff and new stuff and new stuff in my brain. There's always a new podcast every week. There's always a new video series. There's always a new book. And I'm like, ooh, the new thing. Yes, let me learn that and learn that and learn that. And it's feeling a bit like too much now and overwhelming. And I'm remembering the art of like going back to things or really sitting with something for a longer amount of time. So like, let me listen to a podcast episode, and then I'm going to sit with that podcast episode for a month. And I'm just going to go back to those lessons, and I'm going to think about it, and I'm going to think about it in a new way. And I'm going to go through my artistic life thinking about what I learned. But then I'm also going to go through my business life and be thinking about what I've learned. And it's going to like disseminate in different ways rather than every day or every week trying to learn something new and implement something new. Things need time to marinate. This is going back to the podcast episode from last week as well. Like we need marination time, artistically, career-wise, everything-wise. And this, part of why I'm saying this is because I'm going to give you some episodes of the Not Starving Artist podcast to go back and listen to past episodes. I think it would behoove you, because especially as you're going on your money journey, a lot of the lessons we learn at the very beginning about our own money narratives, but also our practical money management, when you hit new levels and when you grow in your mindset or you feel like you've up leveled, we do end up circling kind of over, like it's seasonal. We talk about the money seasons. Everything is seasonal. And sometimes we forget a thing that we've learned. And so to go back and listen to something that impacted you previously, or that maybe at the time didn't apply to you, but now applies to you. Like this summer, I'm going to be going back and listening to some of my favorite podcast shows, but I'm only going to listen to old episodes that I've already listened to, or ones that maybe like I listened to or scrolled past because I was like, that doesn't really apply to me, or like, no, that's not really what I want right now, to see what's going to hit new now. So some of the episodes that I want to give you here are some of the series that I want you to do this with. The first one is the 10-week money mindset series, money affirmations that actually work. That was released last summer. So summer of 2025, you'll find the full 10-week series there. That's if you need some recalibration. That's honestly for anyone. If you want a little bit of zhuzhing in your money narratives, I'm going to go back and listen to that series this summer, because every time I go back to those affirmations, something new comes up for me. I remember specifically one of the weeks I talked about feeling like I had this weird block of, I don't feel blocked with how much I can earn, but I had a weird block about earning it through my artistic career. I had become so accustomed to earning money other ways in order to fund my artistic career that I forgot that I can make money through my artistic career. And then that summer, so I had actually done this series. It was at the beginning of 2025, like I think it was the first week of January is when I did this series on Instagram. And then that summer is when I booked my first acting gig in years, like my first live theater show in a long time. And so I think it's interesting. And I had like booked a commercial as well. Like there were then new pieces of money coming in artistically. And I don't think that that's a coincidence that I was going and thinking about that specific affirmation and that idea at the beginning of the year. So now that I booked a bigger commercial this year, and other like directing gigs have come in, and different ways I've earned money artistically over the past year. I'm excited to see what happens when I listen. Like I can't even fully remember what exactly that full episode was about. I can't even remember the exact affirmation. I just remember the energy of that episode. And so I'm excited a year later now to see what comes up for me now, having had all this experience over the past year with making money artistically. So Money Mindset series, that's the first one. The other one that you can go back and listen to is, it's called How to De-Influence from Social Media Aesthetics so you can have more money in your bank account. It's something like that. That was a very popular episode on YouTube. Definitely go and listen to that one if you feel like you haven't assessed your spending in a while, or if you feel like there's just money going out on stuff that maybe isn't bringing you the biggest quality of joy that you could possibly get. Another really good one to listen to right now at the start of the summer, it was released July 18th of last year. It's called How to Get 3 Months Ahead on Bills This Summer Without Cutting Brunch or Margs or Vacations, where I talk about my 3-2-1 summer fun protocol. I still hate that name so much, but the protocol is actually really fucking good. And it's gonna really ground you in having so much fun with your money this summer without like doing a fuck it blackout and like hating what your bank accounts or your credit card statement looks like come the fall. It grounds you in fun while also letting you like what you see in the bank. And then the other batch of episodes that I would say to go listen to are client interviews. So I have a bunch of these that were all released in the summer of 2024. You'll see client interviews like interspersed. I think one of the very first episodes I ever released was one of my client interviews, but there was a whole batch of them in summer of 2024. Those are really good for you to listen to if you feel like you're alone in this, if you feel like nobody's worse at money than me, if you feel like you're doing like a weird comparison game. In these episodes, you're gonna hear like the real raw problems and struggles and goals that people were having before really starting to work on their money, what they were able to accomplish. And these are just like, they're real humans, right? With normal human brains, neurodivergent human brains, creative human brains, and how they were able to work through their money journey. Because of course you hear me talk a lot about money, but I think it's really important for you to also hear from other people's mouths, their journeys inside of their financial wellness. And we have a whole gambit. Like we have $1-million business owners, and we have artists who were living paycheck to paycheck and had a ton of debt, and how both of those different tiers of financial situations, they're also really working on the same kinds of money problems and the same money narratives. And then how no matter where you are financially, what's in the bank, what's in the savings, what's in the paycheck, how you can make meaningful progress no matter what. That like nothing is off limits to you no matter where you're at. So even though the podcast is taking a summer vacation, we're still full throttle here, back with client calls and with workshops and everything that happens behind the scenes, the actual business that's running outside of the marketing and the front-facing content piece, that's still going full steam ahead. So I've got calls on my calendar already from people who have joined the 30-day summer glow up program. If you haven't heard me talk about the 30-day money glow up program that I'm running this summer, it's a private coaching program, 30 days long. It is the quick and efficient way to get your money shit together without budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks in the span of 1 month, so that you can still enjoy the fuck out of your summer while still liking what you see in the bank accounts. We're gonna set up your personalized cash flow system, and we're gonna diagnose and start working on your biggest money mindset block. We're gonna be able to run through one financial CEO party together, so you will then have a framework of how to continue managing your money for the rest of the year so you can hit all of your most high priority money goals. I'll leave all the rest of the details in the show notes so you can read all of those for yourself and the link to join that. So you'll be able to book your first call with me once you hit that join link. And if you know you're someone that you want more in-depth support, especially money mindset support, or you have a little bit more of a complicated financial situation, you can book a sales call with me for one-on-one coaching. I do have slots available for this summer. So we can still connect, we can still work together. we'll just be back here on the podcast in the fall. I will miss you all, and I hope you have such a fantastic summer. I am so excited about this summer. I'm about to live my summer camp counselor girl summer. I'm just going to be in my bathing suit and pigtails all summer, out in the grass. You will not catch me inside for more than when I have to sleep at night. That's the kind of energy that I'm going into this summer with. I will be sending you all good vibes, good energy, and don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions. You can reach me at support@notstarvingartist.com. That'll be the quickest way for your message to get to me. You can also DM me on Instagram. I just can't promise how much I'll be on there because Instagram brain is real and my brain needs a reset. Have a blast these next few months. I will see you in the fall. Unless I see you in the 30-day money glow up program. In that case, I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to become the financially confident CEO of your life and career, you can learn more about private coaching with me by heading to notstarvingartist.com and clicking on the one-on-one money mentorship page, or hit the link in the show notes. You can also grab my self-study online course, Cashed Up Creatives, which is the full financial curriculum that you were never given in college. You get the first module totally free, so click the link below and you can start learning today. For all workshop and speaking engagement inquiries, send a message to support@notstarvingartist.com. And as always, if you loved this episode, please like, comment, review, send it to a friend, and I will see you next week.